What if I told you that the most powerful weapon you have is the one you almost never use? It's not words, it's not explanations, it's not even anger, it's silence. The real kind, the kind that disarms, unsettles, and forces those who underestimated you to face themselves. In this video, you'll discover how your silence can become the greatest doubt in the mind of someone who took you for granted. You'll see why disappearing without a word makes more noise than any argument, why your absence leaves a deeper mark than your presence ever could, and how the calmness with which you choose yourself can shatter the ego of those who thought they had you figured out. This is not about tactics. It's about rebirth, not revenge, clarity, not cold detachment, emotional precision. The person they thought they controlled no longer exists, and that shakes them. The one who ignored your messages now sits in silence, feeling your absence. The one who rejected you now carries the weight of losing you. The one who wanted you weak now sees power in your indifference. Have you ever noticed how everything shifts when you stop reacting? When you no longer try to explain yourself? When you stop insisting on being understood? That's when the reversal begins. That's when your new self is born. The version that no longer seeks approval, that no longer needs closure through words, that walks into a room and commands respect, just with presence. And the most shocking part? You didn't do anything dramatic. You simply became unrecognizable. And the ones who thought they had you all figured out no longer know how to read you. In this video, I'll walk you through 10 inner shifts that can shake even the most self-assured person. 10 silent choices, 10 invisible actions, 10 emotional reversals. You won't explain yourself anymore. You won't justify anything anymore. And in the end, they'll be the ones wondering when it all changed, when you stopped chasing, when you became the doubt they never saw coming. Want to know how? Stay until the end. Because what you're about to see might forever change the way you handle rejection, detachment, and your personal power. 1. Disarm with silence. There are moments when saying nothing is the only right choice. Moments when any word would feel empty, off, or out of place. That's where real power begins, right between what you want to say and what you consciously choose not to. Silence isn't weakness, it's a declaration of strength. Like holding someone's gaze without flinching, letting time speak for you, choosing to show, not explain. At first, the other person doesn't understand. They expect reactions, they expect a reply, a reason, a scene, but all they get is emptiness. And in that emptiness, something begins to break. People are used to controlling what they can predict. And when you stop being predictable, you stop being controllable. Your silence becomes a wall they no longer know how to climb. And the most unsettling part is not what you say, it's what you stop saying. How many times have you felt the need to defend yourself? To say the right thing? To send a message just to not seem distant? But every time you did it, something inside cracked a bit more. Because each word given to someone who doesn't deserve it is energy lost forever. And at some point, you simply stop. Not because you feel less, but because you finally realize you don't have to react every time you're hurt. Silence is a powerful decision that requires no announcement. It's the highest form of self-alignment. It's when your presence remains even without words. When every lack of response becomes a message the other must decipher, and the more they try, the more lost they feel. Because you're no longer trying to fix things. You've become the echo of what they should have protected, but didn't. You no longer need to raise your voice. You don't have to explain why you walked away. Your absence becomes a language, your silence becomes a mirror, and the other, standing before that mirror, is forced to face themselves. No excuses, no filters, no distractions. Just that uncomfortable reflection that used to be muffled by your words, your patience, your presence. Every day, this happens more than we think. Someone stops replying, not out of anger, but because they know continuing would mean betraying themselves. How often have you seen someone go silent, not out of fear but from dignity? That's when real change is born. That's when the neediness finally breaks. And in that silence, the one who thought they won suddenly feels unsure. It's not easy. It takes courage. It takes an inner calm built from wounds, disappointments, all the pain you endured quietly before reaching that point. But once you do, there's no turning back, because you realize your time, your energy, your peace are non-negotiable, and your serenity needs no explanation. It's felt. It's sensed. It speaks for itself. The silence that disarms is not revenge, it's awareness. It's the moment you stop playing the role in someone else's script. You didn't disappear, you became untouchable. 2. Disappear without warning. Anyone who needs a big speech before leaving isn't truly ready to go. Real breakups don't make noise. No dramatic exits, no final scenes. They happen when something inside shuts down quietly. And from that moment on, you no longer reply the same way. No longer search, no longer stay. No texts, no calls. Just an unexpected absence that speaks louder than words. Sometimes the most powerful disappearance is the one that doesn't announce itself. Those who took you for granted realize your worth only when they can't reach you anymore. But this isn't revenge, it's healing. When you disappear, you don't do it to hurt them. You do it to save yourself. Because you finally understand that staying where you feel unseen is a betrayal of your own self. From that moment on, silence is no longer passive. It's a decision. It's the moment you tell yourself, enough. This happens often in real life. Someone used to message you daily, then silence, and you keep texting, checking, insisting, until the day you realize their silence isn't distraction, it's a choice, and something inside you flips. You stop reacting, you stop explaining, you stop asking what you did wrong. You rise, breathe, and walk away with a calm that disarms, because the one who disappears peacefully has already mourned what they were never going to receive. The mind of someone who loses you doesn't get it right away. They think you'll come back, that it's just a phase, that soon you'll return with the same sweet words, the same excuses, the same affection. But this time, you don't return. And every hour without your presence becomes a burning void. Because true absence isn't physical, it's emotional. It offers no hooks, no promises. Just a clean break, total, irreversible. Disappearing without warning isn't an ego trip. It's a personal power move. It's saying enough without saying a word. It's refusing to keep giving energy to someone who never gave it back. It's stopping the need to prove your worth. If someone ignored you while you were still there, they don't deserve an explanation when you're gone. And then what happens? They start searching, rereading old messages, looking for clues, asking others if they've seen you. But you're no longer there. And that silence becomes an unsolvable riddle. The ones who thought they had you figured out now feel lost. Because your disappearance isn't a performance, it's the result of 1,000 quiet heartbreaks. All those times you waited, hoped, forgave. Now the calm you've found isn't coldness, it's protection, it's dignity. It's the moment you stop fighting to be seen and finally choose yourself even if they never understand. And it doesn't matter if they call you selfish, if they say you disappeared, if they accuse you. The ones who never saw your pain while you were still there don't get to judge your choice to leave. So you let time do its job. You let silence have its effect. You let your absence build a new presence inside you, stronger, clearer, more centered. Because those who truly disappear don't come back to be understood. They return only to themselves, and that's enough. 3. Turn rejection into power. Not every no breaks you. Some actually save you. Even if they feel like punishment at first, even if they burn like open wounds, even if they leave you breathless in the middle of the night. The rejection you thought would destroy you often becomes the reason you look in the mirror with new eyes. Because once you stop asking what you did wrong, you finally start asking who you want to become. And that moment is the real beginning. Most people see rejection as a final sentence, as if someone else's decision not to love you defines your worth. But rejection says more about the one who gives it than the one who receives it. It reflects their confusion, their fear of depth, their inability to recognize true value. And yet, those who are rejected often cling to the illusion that they can reverse it by giving more love, more effort, more presence, until one day they realize they're just draining themselves trying to fill someone else. The shift starts right there, when you stop begging for a reason, when you no longer try to convince someone who never really saw you. When the pain doesn't scare you anymore because you've learned to walk through it. No one remains the same after facing rejection with clarity. You become more alert, more silent, deeper. And the one who pushed you away realizes too late that the person who gave everything without asking for anything is no longer there. In daily life, it shows up in subtle yet defining ways. Someone stops replying with enthusiasm. Conversations feel forced. Plans get postponed. The energy shifts and you feel it. But instead of leaving, you stay, you wait, you excuse it. Until that message, that sentence, that action arrives, and suddenly there's no more doubt. You've been treated as a backup, and from there you can either stay stuck or choose to transform. Those who turn rejection into power aren't the ones who don't suffer. They're the ones who refuse to let that pain define them. They take all that effort once directed outward and redirect it inward. They stop chasing and start rebuilding. They rewrite the story. From silent victim to the main character of their own growth. Because no wound is more powerful than the one that forces you to stop begging for love and start giving it to yourself with intention. Change doesn't happen overnight. There will be days when you feel the emptiness. When questions return. When your mind tries to make sense of something that simply doesn't. But those are the moments that carve your new strength. Each time you choose not to reach out, not to fold, not to explain, you're building a version of yourself that they'll no longer recognize. And one that you'll finally love with clear eyes. Rejection is not the end. It's the exact moment your value stops being up for debate. And from that point on, every step you take leads toward freedom, even if it hurts at first, even if no one notices, even if you feel alone. Because there's a kind of strength that only appears when everything else collapses, and that strength is you. 4. Turn absence into impact. You're not most noticed when you're present, you're most noticed when you leave, yet something of you remains. Not your body, not your voice, but your memory, When you walk away without drama, without revenge, without making a scene, something unexpected happens. Your absence becomes louder than your presence. The space you leave begins to weigh. Not because you did something big, but because disappearing after giving fully creates an echo that's impossible to ignore. People assume that when someone vanishes, it's because they no longer feel anything. But it's the opposite. Those who disappear with dignity often felt too much. They noticed every detail, gave second, third, fourth chances, and then realized there was nothing left to wait for. So they stepped back. But that step isn't escape. It's revelation. Like removing music from a room and hearing the silence left behind. This happens more often than you think. Someone used to text you every day, then they stop. No goodbye, no blame, no guilt tripping. But you feel it, you start wondering, are they mad? Did you do something wrong? But there's no answer. And then it hits. A strange emptiness. Not because you miss the person, but because you miss being chosen by them. And now that their choice is gone, you realize how much you took it for granted. That's when absence becomes a mirror. It shows you who you were when their presence was steady. It reveals how you behaved, how often you ignored, how often you replied without care, how often you assumed they'd always be there. Now they're gone. And what remains isn't just silence, it's the awareness that you lost something that won't return the same. Because anyone who leaves without a word has already undergone an internal shift you'll never fully grasp. Absence has the power to rearrange everything, to rewrite perception, to bring order to memories. At first it feels like they just left, then they become a recurring thought, then a question with no answer, then a regret, until you realize they gave you more by leaving than they ever did by staying. They gave you a lesson, a void that teaches, a silence that speaks, a presence that echoes even from afar, and you don't have to do anything to make this impact grow. No cryptic posts, no pretending you're thriving, no need to prove a thing, just don't return. Stay on your new path, where you've chosen peace over chaos, dignity over dependency, silence over noise, because those who leave quietly, but with alignment, leave a mark that burns. Not out of cruelty, but because it awakens the conscience of those who were asleep. And once that conscience wakes up, the real questions begin. The ones that hurt, the ones no longer have answers. 5. Master with indifference. There's no weapon more refined than the calm of someone who's stopped being hurt. Indifference isn't coldness. It's not arrogance. It's a quiet victory that comes only after walking through emotional hell. It's when what once stirred you now means nothing. No faster heartbeat. No urge to reply. No need to explain. Just peace. And that peace, which looks like emptiness to others, is your greatest power. When you stop reacting, control changes hands. You're no longer ruled by others' moods. No one can push your buttons anymore. True indifference isn't an act. It's not bait for attention. It's proof you no longer want anything from those who never gave you the bare minimum. It's not detachment. It's clarity, sharp and silent, cutting deeper than words. In daily life, this shift is barely visible, but it changes everything. You see a name on your screen, and instead of a jolt, you feel stillness. You don't delete them, you don't block them. You don't need to. You just don't feel the pull anymore. No urgency, no inner voice begging you to give in. And to outsiders, it looks like nothing. But that nothing is your biggest win. Indifference doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of 1,000 disappointments, broken promises, words without action, empty gestures you welcomed, hoping someday they'd become real. But when you realize you deserve more than crumbs, something breaks. And in that crack, a new space opens, one that no longer chases or begs. Those who lost your attention start to feel the weight of your absence when they see you're not trying to come back, that you're not even trying to explain yourself, that you chose yourself quietly. And nothing is more unsettling than someone who no longer wants to be understood, because indifference doesn't argue, doesn't seek to be right, doesn't want to prove anything. It just is. And that silent presence shatters every illusion. How often have you seen someone cling to a person who doesn't care, just to avoid seeming cold? But real love doesn't require chasing, and those who hurt you don't deserve your energy explaining the pain they caused. The most powerful forgiveness is indifference. It doesn't hit back. It dissolves the wound, and in doing so it frees you, it lightens you, it protects you. You haven't become numb, you've become selective. You've learned not to give your heart to someone who plays hide and seek with emotions. You've learned not to react to silence used as manipulation. You've learned to stay silent where once you would scream, and that's a strength no one sees, but everyone feels. Those who knew your vulnerable side now can't reach you, not because you're far, but because you refuse to be hurt by the same knife again. True freedom begins when you no longer care to convince anyone. When your silence isn't waiting, it's choice. When you stop proving and start living, and those who expected you to still be fragile now face a calm they can't read anymore. 6. Change without explaining. The most powerful change is the one that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask permission, it doesn't post updates, it leaves no clues, it just happens. And those who once knew your needy, reactive, fragile self are left confused by your new presence. Something has shifted, but they can't figure out what. You don't shout, you don't justify, you don't chase. You're simply not the same, and that alone throws them off. People expect continuity. They want to find you where they left you. But when you truly evolve, you're no longer available in the same places. Your voice sounds different. Your eyes see deeper. Your silence is no longer waiting. It's deliberate. And those who weren't ready for your transformation now wonder, are you still the same person? Or did they lose the version they once controlled? In daily life, it's simple but profound. The one who used to talk down to you now sees you listening without folding. The one who gave orders disguised as advice sees you no longer follow. The one who exploited your kindness now hits a wall where there was once an open door, and most of them don't get it. They ask if something's wrong. They accuse you of changing. And yes, you have. But you don't need to explain it. Because those who ignored your pain don't deserve the story of your rebirth. Changing silently is an act of power. It means you've stopped living for others' expectations. It means you no longer betray yourself just to be accepted. You don't have to share every step of your path to be validated. Your transformation is in your actions, in your stillness, in your boundaries, in your no that no longer trembles. And you don't need to justify it to yourself either. You're not colder, you're more conscious. You're not distant, you're more discerning. You've learned not everything deserves a reply. Not everyone deserves access to what you're becoming. And respect isn't something you ask for, it's something you show. You embody it in how you walk, how you speak, how you choose silence when someone isn't ready to listen. Those who hurt you when you were open now face a locked door they don't know how to unlock. They look for answers, they search for reasons, they look for cracks, but you have nothing left to explain, only a life to keep living, because your change isn't revenge, it's protection. It's the result of sleepless nights, hard silences, and truths you had to digest on your own. And now that you've rebuilt your foundation, you can't shrink to fit into the eyes of someone who never really saw you. Your evolution isn't a show. It's sacred. And those who truly want to be part of it don't ask for explanations. They listen, they observe, they respect. The rest can only watch from afar and wonder how they ever let you go. 7. Disarm them with your peace. Nothing unsettles more than someone who, after suffering in silence, chooses peace without warning. The calm of someone who has survived chaos is a strength you can't fake. They don't shout. They don't prove anything. They're not seeking revenge. That calm is not indifference. It's awareness. It's built from nights of silent tears, unreturned hopes, and wounds quietly endured. When you reach that point, you're no longer at war with anyone, not even yourself. Your presence becomes a mystery to those who once knew you as reactive, insecure, easily shaken. Now you're different. You don't flinch at provocations. You don't bend in the face of silence. You no longer chase those who are lost. You walk slowly, steadily, with purpose. And that, more than anything, shakes those who thought they had you under control. In everyday life, it's seen in your eyes. They used to search for reassurance. Now they observe without expectation. They once begged for attention. Now they ask for nothing. Yet they speak, loudly. They reveal everything your words no longer carry. Those watching you don't know if you're cold or just tired. But you know it's not fatigue, it's peace. Peace earned after giving too much to those who didn't know how to receive. Your serenity becomes a mirror. It reflects what others lack, what they failed to build within themselves. Because people living in noise don't know how to defend against someone who no longer reacts. They look for conflict to feel alive, but you no longer give it to them. So they grow agitated, confused, lost. Your calm reflects a void they can't fill. You didn't become better to prove something. You changed because staying the same was breaking you. Now every gesture is intentional, every word measured, every step aligned with who you've become. And those who wanted you unstable now face a balance they can't disturb. A quiet stability louder than any outburst. An emotional distance that doesn't scream but weighs. Your peace is like a transparent wall, invisible, but it keeps people out where they once had full access. Not because you want to exclude them, but because you've learned to protect yourself. And in this new space, you feel good. You breathe better, you carry less. And those who can't adjust to your new energy drift away on their own, because they can't cling to the old you. Those who once relied on your need for approval now talk to themselves. Those waiting for your reaction now face your silence. And in that silence they hear a loud absence, but you don't go back, because you know your peace is not for sale. You don't trade it for love. You don't bend it for fear. You don't lose it to please those who never cared for it. You chose calm. And that choice, day after day, puts everything back in its place. Even if it looks like you're doing nothing from the outside, inside you're building a strength that needs no explanation. You just live it. And anyone who meets you now meets someone who doesn't need to defend themselves. Because they're already at peace, and there is no greater defense than that. 8. Strike with your presence. What shakes people most isn't your silence. It's what you radiate when you walk into a room and no longer need to speak. Those who once read you like an open book can't read you anymore. Not because your appearance changed, but because your entire core has been rebuilt. Your energy no longer seeks approval. It's a silent statement. You've stopped searching. And that's exactly why you're finally seen. Those who labeled you predictable, available, easy to read, now lose themselves in your measured gestures, in your softer tone, in your eyes that no longer search for validation. There's no arrogance, just presence. The kind that comes from standing back up on your own. The kind that needs no explanation, because everything is said through how you move, how you walk, how slowly you now choose to stay in or leave. In real life, this happens when you reconnect with someone who knew you at your weakest. Their eyes scan for the old version of you, for insecurity, hesitation, attachment, but they don't find it. Instead, they see your calm, your boundaries, your way of observing without being pulled in. Your presence becomes an unspoken comparison, and the one who underestimated you starts wondering, when did you stop waiting? When did you realize you were enough? You don't need to change your tone. You just stop asking permission to exist. You stop trying to please. You stop offering your attention to those who don't value it. You don't create distance with words. You do it by no longer chasing. And when your presence changes, so does your impact. You're no longer predictable. And those who can't read you anymore start to feel lost. Your new energy enters before you do. It's made of decisions, of absences, of boundaries, of dignity rebuilt at great cost. Those who thought you were done now see you with different eyes, because you didn't come back stronger. You came back untouchable, not to hurt, but because you finally learned to protect yourself. Your presence is now a filter. Not everyone gets access, and to those who were used to free entry, that's a shock. You don't need to grab attention. Your existence is enough. It's become a quiet force even in silence, a presence that doesn't overwhelm but commands space, a light that doesn't blind but reveals what's missing. Those who meet you now know something has changed. They can't explain it, but they feel it, because your presence speaks and says everything you used to explain with words. Only now you no longer need to. 9. Silence those who expected you weak. The most powerful moment isn't when you respond, it's when you choose not to. When someone provokes you expecting a breakdown, but instead you remain still. They pull you into a game you know by heart, and you simply smile and walk away. That's the silence that wounds, not to seek revenge, but to restore your dignity. And those who expected begging now face a calm they can't handle, because pain no longer shows up as public breakdowns or sharp words. It shows in your composure, in how you rise, pull yourself together and walk away without looking back. No need for answers, no drama. That's when the one who underestimated you starts doubting everything they thought they knew. Because the control they believed they had disappears the moment you realize you have nothing left to lose. And when you stop fearing loss, you become unpredictable. That's how it happens in real life. They message you with a mocking tone, you don't reply. They expect rage, instead they get silence. They search for your weak spot, but it's gone. Too late. Because now it's not your heart speaking, it's your emotional absence, a distance not measured in miles, but in decisions. And once you decide not to return where you were disrespected, everything shifts. Those who expected your usual emotional reaction now face a locked door with no warning. And behind that door, there's no bitterness, only clarity. A silent, nearly icy clarity that doesn't beg to be understood, that doesn't explain, that doesn't ask for forgiveness. It just stands, still, present, undeniable, because your evolution is no longer a threat, it's reality. And those who couldn't love you in your chaos will never get close to your calm. You haven't become distant, you've become untouchable. You're not cold, you've learned balance. You've stopped handing your vulnerability to people who never handled it with care. And now, those who waited to trap the old version of you, ask themselves who you've become. When it happened, what changed you? But they'll never get the answers, because you'll never give them. They'll have to find them alone. And those questions, they'll echo without a reply, without closure, without a return. The strongest kind of respect comes when you stop asking for it, when you stop explaining why you're leaving, when you let your silence say what words never could. The one who expected you broken now sees grace. The one who expected desperation finds elegance. The one who relied on your old need now faces someone who needs nothing from them. Because the one who learns to stand alone becomes the end of every manipulation. And you've arrived at that point. Quietly, without notice, without applause, with the certainty that you'll never again break in a place where you've already rebuilt yourself. And that is the last thing they expected. 10. Master your mind and move on. Not every thought deserves your attention. Some don't even come from you. They come from wounds that still speak for you. Thoughts that pull you back every time you try to move forward. That make you doubt yourself. That whisper you're losing something just because you've stopped chasing. But the truth is, you're not losing anything. You're reclaiming yourself. And at first, that's louder than any silence you chose. Learning to master your mind is the shift that changes everything. It's not about controlling every emotion. It's about not letting every emotion control you. It's about recognizing when a thought is unhelpful, when it doesn't build, when it keeps you looping in a story that has nothing left to give. And in that moment, choosing to let go becomes a true act of freedom. In daily life, it shows in small moments. You're about to send a message, one you already know won't get the answer you need. You pause. You feel the pull, the pressure of need. But then a new voice rises, the one that says, it's not time to chase anymore. Every time you save yourself from an impulse, you're making peace with your clearest self. So the message remains unsent, and you stay, stronger. The mind seeks closure that life often doesn't provide. It looks for meaning. It wants fairness. But not everything makes sense. Not everything can be fixed. And when you realize the real ending isn't a sentence from them, but your choice to stop waiting for one, you've finally closed that chapter, not out of defeat, but out of respect. Because your peace is worth more than any truth that never comes. While others still wonder what happened, you've already started again. Those who saw you restless now don't understand how you stay silent, how you don't give in, how you no longer reach out. But they don't know each step forward was built on sleepless nights, each composed smile born from pain you never screamed, each moment of calm the result of a mind you've trained to stop drowning in memories. You haven't become cold, you've become steady. You're not distant, you're centered. And now that you know how to protect your energy, you no longer let thoughts of those who ignored you dictate your mood. You no longer give your hours to questions that lead nowhere. You've stopped assigning meaning to those who stripped away your value. And in doing so, you've taken your power back. Moving forward isn't always easy. There will be moments when nostalgia knocks, when you reread old messages, when you wonder if you made the right choice. But each time it happens, remember why you left. Remember how you felt when you stayed. And you'll see that every step is a step toward your inner freedom. It's not them who need to change for you to find peace. It's you, changing from within, who has stopped letting your peace depend on someone who never knew how to hold it. Conclusion. Sometimes the deepest changes make no sound. They don't arrive with dramatic gestures or grand speeches. They arrive quietly. They begin the moment you stop explaining, stop chasing, stop waiting. They begin the instant you return to yourself, not out of pride, but out of clarity, out of respect, out of emotional survival. And from that moment on, everything shifts. You're no longer where they left you. You're no longer who they thought you were. And for those who took you for granted, that's when their confusion truly begins. Every conscious absence you've chosen was an act of presence toward yourself. Every silence you've held became a louder answer than 1,000 words. Every time you didn't react, you claimed your power. And now, those who thought they had you figured out stare at a version of you they can no longer reach. You're no longer predictable, no longer hurt the same way, no longer a story already written. In this journey we've shared through the video, you've discovered that silence can become your voice. That calm can shake louder than any scream. That absence can leave impact. And that your transformation doesn't need words to be real. It shows in your eyes, in your posture, in how you move through the world without needing permission to exist. Those who lost you now question everything, and you no longer need to answer. Stoicism is not about shutting down, it's about centering. It's knowing that you can't control others, but you can always choose how to respond to what they trigger in you. True power isn't about dominating the outside world. It's about mastering your inner response. You stopped chasing attention. You began cultivating presence. You let go of emotional dependence and embraced the freedom of your silence. Now it's you who decides where your space begins and ends. If any of this resonated with you, write in the comments, "I am the unexpected." Write it to remind yourself that your silent transformation is the biggest question in the mind of anyone who counted you out. It's the sign that you're returning to yourself, and no one can stop that. Subscribe to the channel to keep growing with us. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. If you want deeper insights, join our community by becoming a member. And if you believe this message could help someone going through something similar, share it. Make sure the right silence reaches the ones who need to hear it. You don't need noise to make an impact. Sometimes just being is enough, sometimes walking away is louder, but always do it with awareness. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, walk with strength, in silence, and with a whole heart.